Hey guys! It seems we have a British week on the channel this time, as after having a look at the legendary chieftain in Armored Warfare earlier this week, again we have a guest from the land of tea and biscuits. It's of course none other than the infamous Bishop, the Tier 5 British SPG in World of Tanks. Now this naughty boy is just before the even more infamous bird, aka the FE304 in the British tech tree, and it shares quite a few similarities with that smiling devil, while in other aspects they could not be further away from each other. Either way, it's not a boring machine for sure. Now, I have to say it up front that while I enjoyed every single game with the Bishop, I did not ace it yet during those few games, and I decided not to stick around for just that. So this time around I can only offer you a first-class gameplay, I'm afraid, even if quite an enjoyable one. Now if you would like to jump ahead to the burning tanks, the timestamp stands ready in the description below. And as for the rest of us, let's have a look at the past of this historical self-propelled gun. It might come as a surprise, but the Bishop is mostly known for its role in the North Africa campaign at the beginning of the war, as it was specifically developed to support the British troops who were under a lot of pressure by Rommel's Afrika Corps. And that pressure was quite serious in 1941, when the British command had to realize that they are really lacking the means of taking out the more advanced German medium tanks, specifically the Panzer III and Panzer IV versions. Their anti-tank rifles and 40mm anti-tank guns, that were quite effective against the Italian tanks, just really couldn't deal well with that German armor. They soon realized that the 25-pounder field batteries are able to do the job, but these were neither mobile nor well protected. A self-propelled gun was the obvious solution, but there was just a little problem with that. The Royal Artillery completely trashed its SPG project back in 1925 after the failed experiment that was the Birch gun, so not only did they not have much experience in the matter, but they were also seriously behind Germany, who was working on SPGs back since 1938, as they have also found out when the shells began to rain down on them in the desert. Be as it may, they required an urgent solution for this pressing problem. And behold, just in 3 months the Bishop was born, basically mounting a 25-pounder gun on the chassis of the Valentine. So, success story, right? Well, let's just say that the smile of the British forces was not entirely honest. While it served its purpose, considering the extremely short development time, unsurprisingly there were a lot of problems with this machine, and it caused immense frustration to its operators. First of all, it was really slow, which was of course the Valentine's heritage, but the larger problem was the solution that they used to mount that gun. The upper compartment was basically a huge flat box, which was not only an excellent target for the enemy, especially in the desert, but at the same time it was still very restrictive for both the gun and the crew as well, which found it difficult to operate it effectively after squeezing 4 of them in the box next to the gun, together with 32 rounds of ammunition. The gun's movement was also really limited in all directions. Only 8 degrees gun traverse, and even worse, only 15 degrees gun elevation meant that the range of the Bishop fell under 6 kilometers, which was half the range of the standard field batteries. The crews were desperately trying to increase its firing range, so quite often they actually built ramps and parked onto them to tilt the machine upwards. 100 Bishops were built in total, and almost all of them did see service as well in the Second Battle of El Alamein, and later on in the early stages of the Italian campaign as well. As soon as it was possible, however, they were replaced by American M7 Priests and the also 25-pounder Sexton, and were at the end of the day reassigned for training purposes. Now, while that's not really a reassuring history, there has to be a reason why among all the SPGs you tend to see Bishop platoons most of all. While yes, there is. You see, the Bishop uses actually the same top gun as the FE304, but being a tier lower, it has to face much softer opposition with the same penetration and damage potential. Oh, and while we are at it, let's just quickly get the similarities with the FE304 out of the way. The gun is the same, so it gets a really high gun arc with limited firing range. At the same time, while Bert is small and quick, the Bishop is huge and slow. But once again, it's a tier lower. There you go. That's the most basic comparisons that you could get. Now, while we are at it, what do we actually get with that Top Gun? Well, we do get the best DPM at tier 5, but it's not all good news. It does have the worst penetration at only 57mm, and that's combined with a really bad average alpha damage of only 450. And if that would not be enough, you have also the lowest burst radius with only 1.39 meters, by far the smallest gun arc with 8 degrees only, and pretty much less than half of the firing range of all the other tier 5 SPGs, with only a measly 499 meters. Awful deal, isn't it? Well, you would be surprised. Every other aspect of this gun is pretty damn amazing. You are very accurate with only 0.72 meters dispersion, and you have the fastest aim time to go with it with only 4.5 seconds. You also have a blistering rate of fire, in SPG terms anyway, with 4.65 rounds per minute, and that's a shot every 13 seconds or so. Still not convinced? How about if I tell you that the gun elevation of 15 degrees is not really as advertised? Despite what it says on the paper, this thing has a crazy good gun arc combined with super accuracy, so now you can really go for engine deck shots on enemy tanks that were convinced that they were safe. And with that penetration and low alpha damage, that's pretty much what you will have to do if you want to have good results in this machine. Basically, you have to aim for weak spots in an SPG, as crazy as that sounds. You would be surprised though how well that can work. Oh, and by the way, just like the FV304, this thing does not get any premium shells either. Regular HE is all you are going to get. And the surprises actually still don't finish here. You also have by far the most HP with a health pool of 350, and you even have some armor to go with it with up to 60mm to be exact, though that will only really surprise some lower tier opponents. Should you be the one facing the Bishop with something that has limited penetration, it is where you should shoot it. From the front, try to shoot it in the cheeks. From the sides, forget the hull, go for the side of the superstructure. And from the back, you can shoot anywhere but that one single stripe on its ass. Oh, and while I did mention it before, just to emphasize, this thing is huge. So unsurprisingly, its camo ratings and mobility are not the best. You have the lowest top speed with only 24 km per hour, and that's combined with the worst power to weight ratio at just above 9 horsepower per ton, and a not too good 22 degrees per second hull traverse. Equipment-wise, the only news is that it can actually use vents, so the setup will go gun rammer, gun laying drive and vents, with the skills being the usual Brothers in Arms followed by 6 Sense and camo. So, quite a few drawbacks then, and yet this machine is just so much fun. A perfect warm-up for the crazy FV304. But enough promises, let's have a look at it for ourselves on the battlefield. Alright, ladies and gents, so here we are in the Bishop, and we managed to get ourselves into a quite nasty tier 7 game in our tier 5 artillery, and it's on Halluf and on an Ecnounter match. Now this means pretty much that all those heavies on both sides will party it out on the top left corner, on the A1, B1, A2, B2 zone, and we should be heading there as well to rain some serious amount of well, unfortunately lower caliber HE shells on top of them. Now, I will have to be careful with the target selection, if I have a choice of course. Shooting at those tier 7 heavies will definitely be annoying for them, and I can do some module damage, which should be able to help my team out, but at the same time, if there are any softer targets like OI Experimental from the top, or that T67, SU85, Hellcat, if I can get my hands on any of those guys, oh boy, then the fun will really start. Now, good thing of the Bishop is, I mean, it's big, it's ugly, but it can shoot over mountains like nobody's business. Let's see if we encounter anyone on that corner. It seems not. No. We are parked almost next to that little mountain there, so won't be shooting over that one. And you see, one of the actual drawbacks of the Bishop is it aims really fast, but that's actually quite needed as well, as the Skoda just pretty much commits suicide there. So we have a really narrow gun arc, which can be quite annoying. Luckily, our aim time is really good. Oh, look at that, Mr. Hellcat. Yes, please. I want to shoot that tiger, but if not... Oh yes, I'm taking that shot all day, every day. Oh yeah, that felt really good. Okay, so here are the heavies. Now probably our best chance is against this Tier 5 OI Experimental. Suddenly stops. It hits the turret, but the OI Experimental is perhaps surprisingly actually soft-skinned compared to the size of his, and that should be another hit as well. So we still do fairly decent amount of damage. I mean, he's already half health and we managed to put only 2 shots into him. And some more, but this one is only for 54, it hits the side. So it's less than ideal, and this is actually a tricky position to shoot into. Try to do some damage to it, and unfortunately the shell gets stuck in the side of the already dead OI Experimental. And yeah, this is a tricky one. It's all hills and slopes, and as the shell comes in, it just gets stuck in the ground or in the dead tanks. Same with this IS here. It's not an easy one. Oh, and that one didn't go where we aimed at all. Now, as you can also see on the map that the Bishop has quite a limited firing range. But that's all okay, because you can really drop shells on tanks that are behind cover, like this IS here. You did see that's a Tier 7 heavy, and we managed to hit him behind a rock, behind a dead enemy tank, and as we could land the shell on the sides of the rear of the tank, we did manage to do 207 damage on that Tier 7 heavy tank in our Tier 5 artillery. And you can see the reload on this guy, it's amazing. Well, front of an IS, 76 damage, it's not amazing. You really have to try to aim for weak spots, which is not always easy, especially with such a narrow gun arc. Now you will see me make plenty of bad shots here, some unlucky, some just badly aimed like this one. So it's quite obvious that the guy was moving, but never mind, it gets stuck in the hill anyway. You actually waste quite a few shells here trying to dig out this IS. I mean, you can, and again. It's, well, shooting on hilly terrain with artillery will just never be easy. I mean, you can see the rate of fire on this thing is quite amazing, but you constantly have to re-aim. Even though it's going fast, it can be quite frustrating. Now that's a much better proposition. And if we can land a shell on the engine deck of this T-150, we should be able to do some reasonable amounts of damage. Okay, now is the time. It was not well aimed. It was always going to hit the turret, but still, 135 damage. We are over 1000 damage done, which is not too bad. The match is fairly close, and finally, you managed to put another one in that IS. So the match is fairly tight, but we are in a rather good position. We should be able to finally secure this corner here by taking out the last 2 ISs. Oh, that was a close one. You really can make speculative shots with this machine, and there we go. I mean, you can see, it only takes a couple of seconds till you can shoot again. But you do see the difference between hitting soft-skin targets like that Hellcat and tougher ones like this IS, for example. Oh yeah, side shot, no problem. Alright, so that looks much better. No, we're still losing tanks, come on. So that means there is a Bishop and 2 tank destroyers, and I will be very happy to shoot those. Those Russian tank destroyers, an ISU-122S and an Su-85 are both big, long vehicles, large top decks, large engine decks. Perfect targets for the Bishop. It's really weird actually to try to aim for weak spots with artillery. Usually I'm happy if I can splash the target with the accuracy of some of these machines. It's certainly a different playstyle. Now, it's not always easy to get into position, it's really slow, it's not good to maneuver, but as you can see, you can really drop shells behind mountains like nobody else. And there we go. Ah, there goes a tier 7 tank destroyer. I mean, he was not in perfect cover, but he thought he would be safe there, probably. Can we get a bite of this Bishop? No, we have to re-aim, and that means we have to wait for too long and that must have hurt. It's okay, maybe we have better luck with the Su-85. No, a kill denied. But still, 2 kills. I think with the Toya Experimental it should be well over 1500 damage. So overall, quite a nice game. Well then, no ace tanker this game. But I think that despite just getting used to this machine and undoubtedly missing quite a lot of shots, this was still quite a fun little round. The over 1600 damage and the 2 kills were enough this time for a first class mastery badge, together with 31,000 credits and 700 base XP. Not an amazing result, but we still got the top spot by damage done, even if only just. What's really reassuring to see though, is that from the 9 hits scored, all of them penetrated as well, so you will do consistent damage if you can land your shots on the weaker parts of the opposition. Right then, this was my quick look at the Bishop, the Tier 5 British artillery. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, thank you for considering giving it a like or sharing it. Next week I'm planning again 3 new videos before Christmas, so stay tuned, but most of all, have a relaxing weekend people, and I look forward to seeing you on the battlefields.